Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Alexis Fox. I'm the Marketing and Training Manager for the South Florida SBDC here at FIU. And if you were with us yesterday, we covered Government Contracting 101, and today we're going to talk about finding and winning government contracts, giving you some general information about government contracting. We have our presenter today, Mirtha Roy, and our panelist, Luis Batista, who will be helping to guide you all through this journey today. You can utilize the Q&A function in order to ask them any questions that you may have. So if you were not here, Mirtha is an expert in program, project, and contracting management. Her career has spanned over 28 years in designing and leading infrastructure on aviation, construction, energy, and other big government contract projects throughout North and Central Africa and the U.S. Mirtha manages teams and processes dedicated to federal and general government contracting and the procurement cycle, as well as bids, proposals, and contract negotiation, and so much more. This presentation today is brought to you in partnership with FIU's Apex Accelerator. The Florida Apex Accelerator is a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense, and the focus is on consulting and training sessions such as today's and information to help businesses, small and large, to reach and bid on government contracts throughout the Department of Defense and other federal and state and local agencies. The way that they help is they help you complete registration in databases. We talked about SAM a little bit yesterday, identifying the agencies and offices that may need your products or services and how to connect with them, and determining whether you're ready for government opportunities and how to position yourself if you're not. Here's a list of some of the other resources that are available to you, and we will be sharing a lot of links in the chat as well. If you want any detailed information on resources, please use the Q&A function to connect with Mirtha and Luis directly. Again, we are in partnership with the SBDC. We do one-on-one business consulting for startups, access to capital, international trade, marketing, and government contracting through a series of information, data, and market research, as well as trainings and workshops. So please note that the following information is intended to provide info on the federal government contracting. As it is not possible to cover all scenarios and circumstances, there may be other considerations or steps that you want to follow, which are not included in this review, including legal and tax-related issues. For assistance in better understanding any legal obligations for your contracts, you can consult with our legal partners at FIU Legal, and I will put the link for this in the chat as well. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to your presenter for today, Ms. Mirtha Roy.
Okay, let's get the presentation up. Okay, so can we see my screen?
Yes.
With the learning objectives. So basically,
but you need to put it in presentation mode.
Okay, how do I do that?
Tap slideshow at the top panel.
Right here? No.
No, at the very top banner where it says draw, design, animations, tap slideshow.
Okay.
Click it. And then from current slide. The second tile right there, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and you're all set.
All right, thank you so much, technology. So we're gonna, the procurement process are regulated by laws and regulations. There are different phases of the acquisition process, different types of procurement process, different types of contracts, what social and economic, well, they also have interest in programs, and of course, us getting registered. So does it automatically go, Alexis?
You can either click next on your keypad or you can click the actual slide and it'll go to the next one. There you go.
Okay, so I have to click, okay. So, there are public laws And also there was a Federal Streaming Act of 1994. We're not gonna go back to all of that. This is just like an overview of how I guess complex the procurement process is, and that's the federal level down to the state and local. And you have your FARs, what when in we call it in the government, that's the Bible to government, federal government contracting, you know, because it stands for Federal Acquisition Regulations. And then you have your DFARS. The DFARS controls the defense purchases. And then you have your civilian agency supplements. So it covers everybody. So you know, you have your 3 levels of government. You have your legislative and executive and judicial. All that have a part to play in the procurement process. So think about it, guys. There's 125 agencies, and both military and civilian, all that are procurement power and procurement opportunities, right? So when you're doing your market research, when you're doing your you know, your base to see which one you're gonna target, these are the agencies that, you know, would be good to get accustomed with. Then you have your SAM registration. And so we're gonna go over, I think they put this amount up a little bit higher, but any requirements over 25,000 for the sake of this presentation would be required presentation, meaning that if they're purchasing something under 25,000, now they use the P card, which you get paid as soon as you deliver. So you have your phases of the acquisition process. So you have your pre-award. So the pre-award meaning like sometimes when you have to go to the pre-proposal meeting, which I always recommend. When I was in the government, some of them we used to make mandatory, and somebody challenged it and the attorneys had us take it off. But it always says highly recommended. And you got to read these things. So pre-award is getting to know what's happening. And that's the time to get good and comfortable about asking what's going on with the project, because that's preparing to put your proposal in. And then you have your award phase when they decide which one of the 3 top contenders will get the award. Now, post-award, people think, oh, I win the contract and I'm done. No, you have a whole post-award situation going on, which you have to follow your contract language to see what those regulations are. Because the good thing with the government is, oh, it's not moving now. The good thing with the government is like they tell you, you know, what they want. I can get it to move to the next one. Oh, no,
There you go. You just have to hover and then click.
Okay, I'm sorry. So now the methods of procurement, right? Like we talked about the micro purchases, which is the best thing to do, because usually they're looking for one single quote. And if you happen to be that person that had the best quote and the best value to them, so you'll get that. You have your simplified acquisition, that's anything of under $250,000. So that's mean, you know, there's less regulations. They still have to follow a process. You know, they can decide to give a contract for $249,000 to somebody. They have to follow the process, but it's a simplified way. You have your seal bid. What does seal bid mean? They're only worried about the price, right? So you put your bid in, and then they usually have an open, a public open session and read out the bids and the companies. Right there, they determine who the 3 lowest bidders are, and these are the people that they'll process for the award. So an invitation to bid. Usually, if you have a commodity that they know of, or if you're part of a pre-qualification pool, you usually get something called IFB, which is an invitation to bid. Now, I highly recommend that, you know, sometimes they give you a choice of no bid. You know, reply, don't ignore it, because if you ignore it, they may not even, you know, you may pass on the next opportunity. And you can just say no bid. If there's a reason, you can just say, you know, lack of staff or lack of resources, whatever it is, but at least, you know, stay engaged and involved. Again, invitation to negotiate. Now, this is like when you've already gotten to know these are the people that you gonna be negotiating with. and usually, we take like the top 3 contenders to get to those level. Request for qualification. So usually the government is looking for your technical expertise in a situation like that. So the price don't really matter. So right now, they only want to see who is qualified, who is the most qualified to deliver this service. Then, you go into your RFP. So RFP is full request for proposal. RFP contains a technical portion and a cost portion. And of course, part of the RFP would be your timeline, which is the schedule, your delivery schedule, your method of delivery, all these details. So on an RFP, they look for the price, cost data and qualifications. You have to be able to deliver all of it. Now, sources sought, I've mostly seen it at the federal level, and then RFIs, I've seen it at the state and local levels. I also highly recommend that you answer to these things when you receive them. Or if you're looking through a government website and you find an RFI or sources sought and it's in your commodity, you look at it, because what they're trying to determine is what sources are there can deliver those services. And a lot of times, remember, 26 between 23 or 26% of the federal procurement dollars, are dedicated to socioeconomic groups. So they want to see if there's enough small certified businesses out there that can give us this kind of services. They can do set-asides, and that's a whole different class. But so that's why RFIs and sources sought are so important for small minority businesses to answer. So then you have your phases of the acquisition process. Oh no, we went through this already. Wait, so that's like this way. No, I'm going one way. Okay. Oh, this technology is getting me. So the levels of procurement. So we talked about our micro purchases, and your simplified acquisition, anything under 250,000, and then your regular purchases that will go to the whole process of the RFP, and then different cost type and all that you have to pay attention to when you're putting your proposal together, because again, the government would let you know all the terms and conditions of that project that you're replying to. So most of that I've seen was cost plus fixed fee, meaning that you have your cost and then it's a fixed fee that's negotiated for that contract. So let's say for some reason there's an amendment to the contract and the cost gets higher, which the government between you two have agreed that it's additional work that they will pay for that work, your fee does not change. So that's the fixed fee. And award cost plus award fee is whatever the award amount is. The incentive, that's like on big youth projects with the 500 companies that I've seen, where if you find a way to save or to come on, under budget and on the schedule, and you save the money so you can share that saving with the government, and that goes into cost sharing. So this is oops, oh, wait, I have to go to the right. And so you have also your fixed fee, firm fixed price contract, very, very important. Meaning, if you put in a bid, because usually the government wants it, I think, for 180 days or whatever. And when you had those commodities, let's say they cost maybe $10 a piece. And then by the time the government orders it from you in 3-4 months, tariffs, whatever changes in environment, make that commodity higher, you're gonna have to eat that cost because it's a firm fixed price period. This is what you're gonna deliver that for. Now, to get into this economic adjustments, so meaning that if you can prove that something happens that make the price, it's not you that's just using the price. So there's some language in some contracts that allows you to do that adjustment. incentive fee, again, same thing, you give the government an incentive, even though it's under firm fixed price. Indefinite quantity awards, what does that mean? Sometimes they would write services that are reoccurring that they know that they can't live without. So they'll do an IDQ contract, and then they would issue purchase orders against it. So it's called an indefinite delivery contract or quantity. You have your blanket purchase agreement, the same thing. There's not a certain amount of agreement that they can put towards this blanket, but there's like because the government has to have the prototype, the contract, the base contract has to be there with all the rules and regulations and what have you, and then they would give you purchase orders or purchase agreements for that particular task that they need at the time. Time and material is another type of contract. When you're bidding your work, if the contract requires time and material, so that's mean the time that you're spending in your staff and the material that the job. Labor hour, the same thing. Sometimes, if it's staff augmentation is the contract scope. So labor hours would be, what you would sell to the government. And then you could also have a leather contract. So for socioeconomic interests, we talked about that. So you have your large businesses. Now, remember, a lot of the large businesses, instead of them being your competitors, you can make them collaborators. How? Because when they get those government contracts, they get those set-aside goals on these contracts, meaning that they have to go and find smaller businesses in those socioeconomic group. But the key is you have to be certified by that entity, by that agency, whether it's federal, whether it's state, whether it's local. They have to certify you under one of those categories. And so now the large businesses need you. So you have an asset for them. So the different things. Women-owned small business, meaning that as long as you identify as a female, you can get into that category. The economically disadvantaged women requires that you can prove that you're in a disadvantaged group, and that requires a lot more financial. When I help clients with this, the difference between WSB and EDWSB is a lot of financial, more financial data, that thing. And now, of course, the hardest certification now is your service disabled veteran owned small business, and then you have your veteran small. The hub zone also is really good. And what people don't know, the hub zone has two requirements. If you see a hub zone contract you're interested in and you think you can deliver, if you're not physically located in a hub zone area, you can apply for this contract, and as long as you employ 30% of that staff that resides in a hub zone, and that's a long process that shows a lot of, you have to go to a lot of paperwork, and they check the employee's address, but that's part of it. So let's think about it. If the contract requires, 5 people, right? So only 2 from the hub zone is only 30% of that. And of course, the 8A certification is the master of all certifications. Let me see, this is the next one. So what the government expects from you: timely delivery, a quality product, and reasonable price. I know that sounds easier said than done, but and the 3, what they look for, you have to be responsive, you have to be responsible and reasonable, right? And these are like, because us, reasonable was not really a big thing because that's like cost once you get to negotiate, but responsive and responsible are the 2 words that we used to always let contractors know. You gotta, present the best that you have at all times. So getting registered, and the master of all registration is your SAM registration. Of course, the IRS would be something as soon as you register on Sundays, you try to get your federal identification number, your employee identification number. And now the Dun & Bradstreet, I don't really encourage that so much because now Sam is using the EUI and the case number for a lot of stuff. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. I have lots of time for questions today because yesterday I went overboard. So yes, so I don't know if you wanna come in and chime in, Louis, on anything that we shared.
Just for those of you who aren't familiar with the organizations, it's the Small Business Development Center, the SBDC. They have about 1,100 plus locations nationwide, and they work by county. Our center here, Miami-Dade County, also services Monroe County, the Keys. And we have approximately 20 consultants right now, and they range from experts in local government contracting, like Mirtha and Matt, access to capital, international trade, just a series of different specialties in for small business to develop themselves. Apex Accelerators, a different organization. We specialize in government contracting, mostly at the federal level. And there's about 500 of us nationwide. About 12 of us in Florida. I take care of Miami-Dade County and Monroe, pretty much embedded with Miami-Dade County. And yeah, I just see a quick question from someone regarding the DUNS number. There's no harm in including it. Just make sure you include the UEI, before the DUNS so they know you're up to date. There are some situations still in some government forms where they still use the DUNS number, so it's not bad to have. But that's what I have to say on just the introduction of the organizations. As far as the different certifications go, just a few highlights.
Yeah.
Service Disabled Veteran Small Business Certification, for example, is interesting in the sense that the Veterans Administration has to give service disabled veteran small businesses preference in awards. And depending on what sector you're in, right? Certain sectors do better with the VA than others, including construction, information technology, not just things to do with medical. So it has that great advantage. The 8A is actually thank you, Martha. The 8A is actually a business development program within itself. There's a lot of companies out there that will tell you the 8A is the best thing in the world to have, and it is under certain conditions. Unless you have some performance history, they're not going to give you a direct award, which is the power of the 8A. Up to $4 million, by the way, and up to $7 million in construction. But you can imagine, would you give anybody an award without having performance history? So you really want to have performance history first before you get the 8A. Now, Louis, I already have the 8A. What do I do now? Well, okay. Someone talked you into it before, maybe you shouldn't have gotten it. That's fine too. You can team with companies that have the performance history or the financials or anything else that you might be missing. Do keep in mind though that with any of these certifications, small business certifications, if you're the prime, you're still responsible for performing 51% of the work. So, working locally, which is something that Mirtha talked in about quite a bit yesterday if you joined our meeting, is a place to start. Start locally. And that could mean, both cities. Miami-Dade County alone has 35 cities.
Yes.
And counties. Florida has over 60 counties. And the federal government, as Mirtha mentioned, has 125 or so departments. And it's really very specific to not only what you do, but what your you know, as far as your business goes, but also what your ultimate goals are, right? Are you trying to build a legacy company? Do you have an exit strategy, or you're just trying to make some extra money? The only exception to the 51%, and there may be others, but the major exception to the 51% is in construction. And this is critically important because in construction, the prime only needs to self-perform 15% of the work. So you can imagine now you're a whatever you are, and you have to do something out, you know, even as close as Georgia, but still not in your backyard. Doing 51% of the work there might not be that easy. Where in construction, you only need to do 15% of the work yourself. And the first tier subcontractor, and I'll get off construction in a moment. The first tier subcontractor, the trades, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, only need to self-perform 25% of the work. So
I'm
it's
sorry,
a great deal of,
I'm sorry, Louis. So, who holds the JC license for like this construction job? Can a
the,
sub hold it?
it has to be the prime, right? But it's not that difficult to become a GC because you can get the term is slipping my mind right now.
But even as the prime JC, you only do 15%? Because that's the management of the contract right there.
Exactly, and that's the whole idea, right? General contractor, you're a management service. And the word I was looking for is qualifier. Once you're a qualifier. And I'm just gonna look at a couple of questions here real quick. How does a question have to be before it applies WOSB certification? Everything now, all these small business certifications, most of them is being handled through certify.gov. You don't have to have any years in business to apply for WOSB. The thing is that not all NICS codes, the code that identifies your company when you register in SAM, not all NICS codes qualify for a women-owned small business certification or an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business certification. And it's actually your NICS code and your actual qualifications that determine which of those two, women-owned or economically disadvantaged, you would even qualify for. All right, so let's say your NICS code doesn't qualify for women-owned small business. Well, we'll find a way around that. There are other NICS codes that will more likely than not be closely associated to what you're doing. So point being, there's a way around that. Now, someone else asked a very long question here. Government contracts, for example, we're going to support projects related to. I'm going to have to answer that one offline.
Okay. But like Camilla, I would say to her that, yeah, having the subcontract right there, you're building past performance. So that's a great thing if you have opportunity for that, but you can still position yourself for direct government contracting. I'm not sure what the makeup of your company is or what socioeconomic program that you can, benefit from of this, but yeah, for sure. Use your subcontracting opportunities. And I don't know if you were there yesterday, but I also mentioned that it's very important to get that reference page from the program management team that you're working with. That kind of give you an evaluation of your work, because all that is what you can submit as past performance when it's time for you to go on the federal level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, she might not be live. She answered through the Q&A. But
Okay.
as far as my input on everything that Mirtha has said so far, there's a nice opportunity to have to answer some questions, because here's the process, right? As we wait for more questions. The government buys everything, but not everything in the same quantities, and they don't have to buy it from you, right? That's the first thing. You are literally competing against the world market. Keep that in mind. You register in the system for management. You develop a capability statement. That's a one-page, kind of a business card slash CV resume, right? There's a place, the only place really, for the most part, that you can say anything about your company that will be public, if you'd like it to be, and you decide that in SAM, is something called an SBA profile, where you get to say a little bit about your company, actually up to 500 words now. Don't use 500 words, that's too much. You get to use some keywords in case others are looking for you, and some performance history you get to list, but it doesn't have to be work that you've done for the government, any government. It could be work that you've done in the private sector. So what happens? Let's say you're whatever you are, and you see a solicitation that's going to require something you don't have, and you need to find a teaming partner, somebody to respond to that solicitation with together. Well, you can use this very SBA profile database to look for companies in any given area with any given expertise. And then you can go to another website, fpds.gov, and see what, and there's others, usaspending.gov, where you can see their history, see what kind of past performance they've had. Point being, it's a great resource. And those 3 points, SBA profile, capability statement, and SAM, of course, it's really your foundation. So beyond that, it becomes a matter of capturing the opportunity. How do you capture it? There's a lot of ways to capture it. In SAM, it's kind of easy. Anything listed over a certain amount is there. And you can program it, conduct your searches, save them under a certain name. You can run them again anytime or have them reported to you. And when you're talking about, SLED, the state local educational market, well, that gets a little more complicated, right? There are 3,200 counties in the country. How do you capture all of that? You certainly can't register in each one. Well, I guess you can. That'll take you some time, right? And tens of thousands of cities. So, you want to probably get an aggregator of some kind. Excuse me. And you guys have probably seen something from DemandStar, some other major players out there. Apex does have a resource that can help you with that. We do have some criteria before we can list you on there, but basically it's a SLED aggregator that we can, provide for you. And I'm going to get to some other questions here.
Yeah, Dolores, for example, she said, I'm a trainer and provide professional and personal development. I also facilitate trainings that others may not be able to facilitate. Sometimes I think that I may not be visible looking for that type, although I become visible. That sounds like a marketing or branding, right? Because we do have a consultant that assists with branding and marketing. So it wouldn't be with, with me or Louis, but we could definitely assist you if you're looking for branding or marketing.
And as far as in the federal government goes, these type of services, what I recommend is there are going to be companies out there that are doing millions, tens of millions. It very much depends on your specific service, but professional services of almost any kind, right? Where you can actually reach out to them and possibly engage that way. And there are opportunities for different type of training, a lot of different opportunities for training. So that's something that you may want to look into, both at the local and at the federal level. But let me get to a few of these other answers here real quick, Martha.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about HubZone again? HubZone, your company, needs to be in a HubZone. And you can use, there's a HubZone map. You just search Google HubZone map, enter your address, and it'll tell you if you're in the HubZone or not. But keep an eye out for this. Some HubZones have been designated for a very short period because of emergency declarations. So, if you're in the HubZone, but it expires in the middle of 26, it might not be worth pursuing that HubZone certification, right? So keep an eye on that. The big advantage with HubZone, and 33% of your employees do need to live within a hub zone. And there are some other exceptions. Hub zone has become a little more flexible in that if an employee moves, or even if your company moves outside of a hub zone, there's a lot more flexibility there. But it has to be in a hub zone originally. Your employees have to be at least 33% in hub zone themselves or something equivalent. There's some flexibility there. And the advantage is you get a 10% as if you were a local vendor kind of thing. But not against everybody. You get a 10% against, certain companies. So that's the answer to that.
Yeah, Judith was asked, she said she's having problem uploading her capability statement in SAM profile.
Right, but Bertha, I have questions before that I want to get to. That's the very last question you're looking at.
Okay.
Okay. We are already a minority-owned business, disadvantaged business enterprise.
Yeah.
All of these things have advantages. It's how to leverage them, right? What I did to become more visible. That
you answered that.
Okay, you go ahead, Bertha.
No, yeah. Because I'm trying to not go over the time. Oh no, we have a little time. So if we're starting from the top, so what should I become more visible? I think she answered that she would like that. So Dolores, you have to get together with Alexis and sign up for the program. And when you sign up, you have to let them know that you're interested in marketing and branding. You have to be specific so you can get the right consultant. So Judith, if you're already not gonna apply, yeah, you can apply for any contracts that are set aside for the certifications that you have. So Louis, that's where the next question from her was, she has not been able to upload it in SAM profile. I think you had sent me a link because it's not on SAM that you put the capability statement, right?
No.
Yeah, so he had sent me, I haven't really looked into that. I don't know if you can drop the link in the chat for them, Louis. But because that the next question at 12:34, right? She has not been able to upload a capability statement. Yeah, I know that has been a problem, but Louis sent me something that I have not had time to look into. We have an anonymous attendee. Louis, that's probably for you. If I have a unique product with a patent and the government wants to buy it, can I sell it directly to them or only through auction?
Okay, let me address the SAM question real quick. The capability statement, you don't upload it in SAM. What you're allowed to do now is on the SBA profile, you can create a link to your capability statement. That's what's happening there. With a patent the government wants to buy, can I sell it directly to them or only through auctions? No, you can sell it directly to them. There's no reason to have to auction that. Not at all. Not sure what that was. Thank you. Okay. And yes, ma'am, thank you for follow up. Okay. All right, that's all the questions we had that I could see. And really, once you are registered, and say have your capability statement, have your SBA profile, and you've decided what agencies you want to go after, and how do you decide that? Well, you can look at something like USA Spending. We have resources ourselves to isolate, the kind of companies, the actual other vendors that have been dealing in that area. You can reach out to them. But it really becomes very much a commercial type function, something you're already doing now, reaching out, being responsible, being responsive. That's the most important thing. And there's no reason we couldn't end this meeting a little sooner unless anybody else has some questions or anything else anybody wants to say.
Let me see if there's anything in the questions.
Yeah, you know, can you guys do a webinar that actually walks through responding to a bid as a sample? We could, but here's the thing. When you get a request for a bid, right? Somebody just had one a couple of days ago for some X-ray equipment. That's fine. But even if something as simple as that X-ray equipment they're looking for, they're probably looking for a specific brand. They'll say something compatible, but that's a very hard mountain to climb. That's a simple bid to respond to. We could do that in 5 minutes. Now, when you're talking about, you know, a request for a proposal, they're not looking for just a price. They're actually looking for a proposal, right? Ways that they could save money, options, alternatives, things they haven't thought of. What is your proposal? And those really, you're walking through two sections. One, you're walking through all of the you know, just boilerplate, you know, you're abiding by this FAR regulation and listen to those because you're abiding by them, right? You know, all of the just boilerplate stuff that's in any RFP. And then you have your technical specs, your scope of work. Yeah, there you go. Exactly, an RFP. Your scope of work. That's where really most of this would come in. And I'm not saying to use AI blindly, but AI is a great help nowadays in creating a lot of the documents that they request, right? For example. But yeah, I guess we could do something like that, and we should do something like that. We'll make a note of that, and we'll make sure to reach out to you about that. Thank you for that, really very good suggestion, yeah. That's why you're the presenter, Mirtha. I'm talked out.
yes, well, you know, waiting to see if there's anything else that comes in. I think we covered everybody.
Well, here's more about the 8A program.
Okay.
It's a 9-year program, right? And if you're young, you probably think 9 years is a very long time, but it goes by very, very quickly. And unless you have that performance history, then we'll make sure we send out that RFP walkthrough invitation to everybody on this meeting. But what were we talking about? I totally lost my train of thought. The 8A. So the 8A is a 9-year program, and you really want to have past performance before you engage with it. But if you didn't, you know, or don't, one of the techniques that I use, for example, is we can reach out to companies that are about to leave the 8A program. They call it graduate. And those companies are a lot more likely, especially if they've had experience and not just experience, but success under the 8A program, they want to continue working with an 8A company. So catching them a year, 2 years even, you know, before they leave that program is a great way for a brand new 8A company that has no past performance to continue or to quickly ramp up on the 8A program. Mentorship, yeah, that mentorship is, we have a whole other organization that's getting very involved in the Mentor Protege program. They're called Move America. They're also DoD funded. And we kind of use the same technique for that. There are hundreds of current Mentor Protege agreements. And depending on what your NICS code is, right? Because some areas are a lot more Mentor Proteges than others. You know, look at those that currently have a Mentor Protege agreement because you're allowed to have 2. And if they've had success and good luck with theirs, there's no reason they wouldn't want to explore another. Or those that are about to conclude their current MPP agreement. which is usually 6 years, so it's 3 years and 3 years. And those would be the kind of companies that if you wanted a mentor or be a prodigy for, well, they already have the experience, they've done it before, if they've had good luck. Anyway, that's the lower hanging fruit there, with the mentor protege. Courses on writing and winning a proposal. There's a lot of courses out there. We use a resource, excuse me, in Apex called Gavology. But I hate to say it, yeah, there are courses and you should take some, really, these kind of courses are more geared towards estimating, compliance, which is Murtha's specialty, for example. Actually writing the proposal, don't let, GPT write your proposal. It's very obvious when it does. But it doesn't mean you can't use it to help you write the proposal. Pictures, people like pictures. It's just statistically, right? If your proposal has pictures and graphs, and they love all that stuff. We like shiny things in general. But at the end of the day, if you're unless you're on point with the price, right, and the past performance, and they're comfortable with you being able to perform this work, it's going to be difficult, right? When you're starting out, that's why teaming is so important. And we have several, videos that we can share on teaming, how to entering advanced teaming. There's no secret to government contracting, but if there was, teaming would be it. Yeah.
Right. I think that was the last question.
Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and end this for today. I think in the chat, Alexis put how you can reach out to us, and we're really just here to help, right? There's no cost to our services. Our only deliverables are typically what we can help you achieve in terms of additional revenue. And we have offices here in Brickell, in South Dade, in North Dade. But for the most part, we're working remotely pretty much ever since COVID. So we look forward to hearing from all of you soon.
Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you all, and this presentation will be available to you all via email as well. Use all of the supporting links in the chat to connect with both Mirtha and Luis, as well as the resources that are available through the SBDC and Apex. Have a great afternoon.
Have a great weekend.
Good weekend, yeah.
Bye.